Good morning and good Chodesh. Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Wednesday, the 30th day of Nisan, first day of Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Let's hope we should have a good Chodesh, a happy and healthy Chodesh. Should have only good news to all of us. Let's begin with Tzedakah. Gedola Tzedakah, Shemikareves Esageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. And we continue in chapter 44. And we spoke yesterday about the two types of love, the meditations that we need to have, how Hashem is really our life, and we called it Nafshi Ivisicha. God is my soul, that's why I desire you. So just like a person desires his own life, he'll do anything to preserve his life. The same thing is we think about how Hashem, God, is really our life, so we will do anything and everything to preserve this spiritual life in us, and that's why we'll use any opportunity to do mitzvahs, to study Torah, and especially when it gets dark at night. Yivisicha balayla, I desire you at night. We want to make sure we get up in the morning and to get up early to do what we need to do. This is one type of love that we arouse through this type of meditation. Then he said that there is a higher level of love that we can arouse through the meditation, and that is by thinking how a love that a son has to a father. And that is a higher level. Why? Because here it could be that a son will be ready to give his own life away to save his father and mother. So like a son has love to the parents, if we think about this, that Hashem is our Father. And just like a child wants to do something for his parents, that the parents should be happy with him, we want to do something for Hashem. And we'll be ready to do everything and anything for Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe said that what we need to do in order to connect this kind of, to develop this feeling in us, is to constantly talk about it and think about it again and again. You keep talking about it when you speak, especially when you verbalize it. When you speak, it brings out the inner feelings, and then it becomes like a second nature by you. That talking about it and thinking about it will become like second nature. It'll become like part of you, that you're used to think in this way, that Hashem is our life. Today the Alter Rebbe goes on to question this, and he says, but wait a second, isn't that just an imaginary love? Is this something real, that you really feel that Hashem is your father? Or maybe this is just an illusion? You talk yourself into thinking maybe that this is it. But is this something that you really feel? Obviously, a tzaddik, a holy man, really feels it. But the average person doesn't get to that point to really feel that Hashem is my father. So the Alter Rebbe says that he shouldn't be concerned with the fact that it seems like imaginary. I mean, the problem with being imaginary is because, obviously, if we serve Hashem, it's got to be serving God in truth, not with imaginations. But the Alter Rebbe says that being that this is something that is true in essence, it's not something, a new love that you need to create. If you would need to create that love, if that love doesn't exist in you, then it would be a problem. But if it's something that it's there inside of you. All you need to do is to reveal that love. So even though that feeling may seem like imaginary feeling, but what are you feeling? What it is really, it's in there, it's in you. So you have that feeling. The only thing it's not revealed, you don't feel it. So that thinking again and again about this concept helps to bring out the feeling that it's there already. So let's see inside how the Alter Rebbe explains this. Says the Alter Rebbe, "Ve'af im nidme loi lecho'eire shokoyach dimyoni." Even if it appears to him at first sight that this is an illusion, and that in truth he does not possess this love for God, and thinking that he does is nothing less than deluding himself as to his true spiritual status. And that is something that we need to avoid. We need to avoid deluding ourselves, be in delusions that we are in a very high spiritual level and why we know we're not. The Alter Rebbe says, nevertheless, you should not be concerned. Why? Because deep inside you do have it. Lo yochush. He need not be concerned. Because it is intrinsically the absolute truth, even without his own spiritual service, by virtue of the hidden love which his soul possesses for God. So it's there. But then the question is, if it's there already, even without your thinking about it, or meditating about it, or talking about it, what's the point of talking about it? If we'd say that talking about it will bring you to real feeling of love to Hashem, then I understand. But if it's not going to be a real true feeling in your heart, you just talk about it and you're going to have some kind of imaginary love to Hashem. And we said that's okay because deep inside is there. But deep inside it was there always, even without talking about it and thinking about it. So what's the point? So the Alter Rebbe says that the point is that when you think about it and talk about it, that's going to lead to action, to do the right thing, what this thought calls for. It calls for learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. When you think about this concept that you are the child of Hashem and you want to give great nachas and joy to Hashem, gratification to God, and what is the gratification going to be? When you're going to connect to Hashem, as he'll soon explain. So the talking about it brings it out to be revealed, to lead to action. That's what Alter Rebbe goes on and says, but the benefit derived from the spiritual service through which he effects its emergence into the open is that he should translate it into action. And when his love is in a state of concealment, it cannot affect his action. That's why we need to think about it, to talk about it, and think about this concept that we are children of Hashem and we want to bring nachas to Hashem. What is the action? Says the Alter Rebbe, שהוא עסק התורה והמצווה שלומד ומקיים על ידי זה, כדי לעשות נחס רוח לפניו יזברך כבן העובד את אביו. This means being occupied with the Torah and the mitzvahs, which he studies and performs as a result of it, meaning as a result of revealing this love, with the intention of causing gratification to God, like a son serving his father. It does so in order to cause him gratification. However, the Alter Rebbe goes on now to address another issue. Yes, okay, you're doing this and you get leading to action and you're doing the mitzvahs. But we learned earlier in the Tanya that when the mitzvahs in the Torah that we do, in order to connect, to soar up to the higher levels, the mitzvahs needs to be done with true feelings of love and fear of Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe goes on and says that here God helps us join that thought to the action. What does that mean? So Alter Rebbe quotes a saying, what it says, our sages tell us, Machshava toiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu metzarfa lemaaseh. That a good thought, God joins it into action. I mean, the simple understanding of this statement is that when you're doing something, when you're thinking of doing something good, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out, you want to give someone, a homeless person, a sandwich, and you go and you tell him, I have a sandwich for you. He says, oh, well, I just ate, I'm not hungry. So you wanted to do the mitzvah, and you didn't do it. But God joins it and considers it done. That's a simple understanding of this statement. But the wording in this statement doesn't say God considers this as if you have done. It says God joins it into action, to the deed. It seems like there is an action and God needs to join that thought to the deed. And that's why the Alter Rebbe explains that this statement means that when you have the proper thoughts in your mind, and that thought, you think about the love that you have to Hashem and so on, and then you have the deed, you're doing the right thing, you're doing the Torah and doing the mitzvahs, God connects them, and he basically fills in the rest, the gap that is between the thought and the deed, meaning God makes it as if it was actually done with true feelings of love and fear of Hashem, and therefore it helps to become like wings to lift up and bring this Torah and mitzvahs to the higher levels. That's what Alter Rebbe goes on and says. Concerning this, it was said that a good thought is joined by the Holy One, blessed be He, to a deed, providing it with the wings to soar upward, as explained earlier in chapter 16. Continues the Alter Rebbe and says, what is the nachas? What is the gratification that God has from us doing the mitzvahs? So he says the gratification is, number one, it is it's like a child who is the child of a king who is imprisoned and comes out of prison. Could there be a greater joy from that than that? So the neshama too, we possess a godly soul in us, and that godly soul is the child of the king. It's one with Hashem, and all it wants is to do godly and to be connected to God, except that the soul is imprisoned in our body. And when we think material things, we drag with us the godly soul as well. And when we set up time, and we commit, and we do the things what the soul really wants to do, connect to Hashem, we allow the soul out of prison. Says the Alter Rebbe that v'anachas ruachu kimshal simchas hamelech mibnoi shebo elov b'tzeisa mibeis ha'asurim kanis kalael. The gratification he provides God is akin By way of the illustration used earlier, to the joy of a king whose son returns to him after liberation from captivity. So when the soul, God's child, is clothed in the body and the animal soul, it is in a state of captivity, and through Torah and mitzvahs, it is liberated from this captivity and is joined with God. This causes him a joy similar to that experienced by the mortal king in the analogy. And a higher level, says the Alter Rebbe, also a higher level of joy that we can cause to Hashem is to make a home for God right here in the low world. So in other words, it's not just escaping from this world and going connecting to Hashem, but actually in our physical low place, we bring in God in this place and we transform our state of mind. And that is fulfilling God's desire to have a home in this low world. We spoke about it last night in the Torah studies. Very interesting lesson. You can go back. It's on YouTube. It talks about this concept. Prosaic Judaism, we call it. That you have the desire, the pleasure that Hashem has. You're close to Hashem when you are in the midst of dark temptations. And you overcome your temptation. And you do the right, you're making the right choice. You just revealed and you brought and you drew down godliness into this low place where you are. To make Hashem a home for Hashem. So that's what it says. Or God's gratification may be from the fact that it has been made possible for him to have a habitation among mortals in the lowest places, as already mentioned. So this we explained that this is when you think about this love, that Hashem is our Father. And the more you think about it, you will talk about it and think about it. You'll bring it out to the open. That the imaginary love is really true, is real, because deep inside you have it. Now the Alter Rebbe goes on to say that also about the other level of love that we explained earlier. The level of love that you think about the fact that God is my life. That too, says the Alter Rebbe, even though it may not be so real, still you should think about it and talk about it and bring it out. And this, in a way, is harder to accomplish, although that level of love is easier to achieve. What does that mean? It's easier to achieve the feeling of love that Hashem is my life, because that's about me. It's about my life. And when it's about me, anybody wants to live. Everybody wants to live. He wants to have that feeling of sustain your life. The other level of meditation is to think about Hashem is my Father, so it's not about me, it's about committing and giving myself up for my Father. That's a higher level to achieve, harder to achieve. But on the other hand, the fact that you're feeling that Hashem is my life is something, it's not just a spiritual feeling that you have, it's more something that you have to feel. It's my life, it's about your life. Nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe says that we can also accomplish through meditation and through constantly talk about it, and you can also accomplish this concept, this level of feeling that Hashem is my life. Says the Alter Rebbe, והנה, לבחינת נפשי ושיחה נזכה לאל, קורא הדבר מאוד לא יציע מאלם אל הגילוי על ידי ההרגל ופיו וליבו ישרים. Even in regard to the above mentioned love of the category of my soul, I desire you. That Hashem, we say to Hashem, Hashem is my soul, and therefore I desire you. It is readily possible to bring it out of its concealment into the open through constant practice with mouth and heart in full accord. So that one's heart should feel what his mouth utters about God's being his true life. Okay? So that's what the Alter Rebbe concluded now. So we have to do it, we have to keep saying it, and when we say it, we'll start feeling it a little bit, and even though it may seem like an imaginary feeling, says the Alter Rebbe, it's okay, because deep inside we do have it, and so on. Now the Alter Rebbe says, what about another problem? What about the person who keeps thinking and keeps talking about it, and still, I don't feel it. I keep talking and I keep thinking every single day, Hashem is my life, Hashem is my Father, and so on. But I still don't feel it. Says the Alter Rebbe, based on what we just explained, that God joins the thought into action, that is true in our case as well. That even if you don't feel it at all, but the fact that you think about it, and the thought is a true thought, because deep inside it's in you, and that leads to action and you act on your thought, therefore Hashem will do the rest and he will join it into action, the thought to the action. That's what Alter Rebbe concludes here. However, even if he cannot bring this love into a revealed state in his heart, he says, nevertheless, he can occupy himself because of this love in the Torah and mitzvahs for their own sake, through portraying the idea of this love in his mind. Yes, you don't feel it, but you can think and you can portray, you can picture this type of love in your mind, that this is a love that I have to Hashem. Hashem is my life. And you know this is the truth. And even though you cannot feel it, but you're imagining and you're picturing that love in your mind, and a good thought is united by God. Hashem unites this thought to the action. So this is the end of today's shir. Wishing you all a good Chodesh, and we'll see you tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.